everyone, my name's Chloe and this is the Country Witch Crafts podcast. The last video I did was an introduction to this podcast, so if you're wanting something quick to decide whether you are interested in the rest of the content, feel free to go back and view that video first. Otherwise, today I'm going to take you through my works in progress, or WIPs, and I'm also going to show you things that I've abandoned, or at least temporarily abandoned. So, without further ado, I will start us off with what I'm kind of currently working on. These are the slipper socks by Dream in Colour, which I've done several of already. This is technically a rework of my first pair. So this is in Click Chunky yarn, which is no longer made anymore. And I've got a little bit of a dilemma. Me and my group of crafty friends decided to set ourselves a challenge at the beginning of the year where we got a 9-square bingo card and put challenges in it for ourselves. And it's the 27th of December today. We've got till the end of the year to complete it. And the last thing I need to do on this list is these socks. So I did the first one and it was too big. So I went down a needle size and did the other one. But whilst it fits better, I'm very much out of yarn on the decreases. So now realistically I should take the other sock that's here, unravel it because I know it doesn't fit. It's a bit baggy, really. It's not the end of the world. But reknit this on the smaller needles as well and see if I have enough left over from this sock to finish the other sock. Worst case scenario, I think I would have definitely enough if I just did the cuff in a different colour. So I can always go back and do that, but of course it starts with the cuff, so it's just quite annoying. I'm confident that this has only happened because I've got a deadline of the end of the year, and as you can see I'm procrastinating anyway by filming a podcast. So they have been put down and they're not currently being worked on right now, even though they probably should be, but that is what I'm currently working on. Now the pattern for these slipper socks I've used multiple times. It was very good and it was free, but unfortunately it's no longer available, which is sad. But thankfully, everyone, I have a copy of the pattern right here. Yeah, it's certainly seen better days. It's been used to death and a bit chewed, and not by me. And it's also torn because it's obviously been folded and unfolded so many times. I'm sure I'm helping doing that right now. But you can see the lovely photo of the pattern here. That was what sold me the slipper socks in the first place, by Veronica Dream in Colour. And there's a nice picture here as well. Someone doing some lovely crafting, crochet it looks like. Anyway, so I'm currently doing that. Not currently. Right now I'm filming a podcast. I should be doing this. So I'm gonna pop it away, and then after this I'll probably go to bed, and then tomorrow I'll definitely finish these socks. Or maybe I'll film episode 2. Let's see. So those are in just one of these little drawstring pouches. I'm not sure where I've got this one because it looks like the kind of drawstring pouch you get from you know, Love Crafts and Wool Warehouse when they used to do them. But it's kind of too small, isn't it? If you just had one ball of yarn in there. I don't know. Anyway, quite useful for a small project anyway. Because it keeps it all together as well if you want to just chuck it in your handbag instead of a proper knitting bag. Anyway, so that was the slipper socks by Dream in Colour, which are no longer available. Next up, I have the Spring Sorrel, which I've done the by Wool and Pine, Spring Sorrel by Wool and Pine. I've done the yoke, I've finished the yoke, so in theory it's simple from here on in, but I had to put it down because I was working on projects with deadlines for Christmas presents. So that's the only reason. I'm also using a yarn that I'm not that keen on. I love the colour, but actually I'm just using it up. It's one of those yarns I bought in the early days before I decided I didn't really want to use acrylic, certainly not for clothes. So it's this nice coloured James C. Brett Marble Chunky with a kind of barber pole effect and the kind of green and sort of pinky hues, pinky colours, sorry. And yeah, I like the colour of the yarn, but I'm actually just doing essentially a test knit of this pattern, and then I'll, if I'm happy with the fit and everything, and how it kind of comes out, then I'll likely knit it again. Contrary to what I said in my introduction, that I don't like knitting things multiple times, this is an exception, probably. We'll see, because obviously I haven't knitted the second one yet, have I? Yeah, so that's the Spring Sorrel. I'm knitting pretty much everything on Knit Pros. These are on the, classic symphony needles, circulars. I always knit on circulars now, even if it's a flat piece. I just really prefer them, and I find them just a lot easier to transport as well. And this is a little needle keeper, which I got from a friend who had a few too many. So yeah, it just stops your needles getting snapped in a bag or something. And I'm actually keeping this in a little Liz Earle gift bag, which somebody got me for Christmas with a load of lotions and potions in. And obviously I won't say I was more excited about the bag, but it is a good bag actually. I like the Hessian bottom. So that's the Spring Sorrel. I don't know if it's useful to say what needle sizes I'm knitting on, because, well, first off, they are on my Ravelry page if you want to go and look them up, but because I am a tight knitter, I feel like telling you the needle size is kind of pointless, because you probably won't be knitting in that needle size. And even if you are a tight tension, you should theoretically just do a tension square to figure out how you would make it. But yeah, if you're not sure, do go and have a look on my Ravelry if that's sort of the sort of information you want to know. Right, then going quite far back to one of the first things I knitted, really. This is the Jane Austen top from Drops Designs, which is a free pattern, and it's a kind of hooded top with an empire line here, and then the bottom is kind of skirted like this. The yarn is actually Women's Institute, Aran, and they used to do 500-gram balls, which this was made of. And I've actually not currently put the arms on, but I have worn it without the arms, with a long sleeve white t-shirt underneath a few times. What I don't like about the pattern, and that I would change if I redid it, was at the front here, you see how it's kind of gathered, and it's gathered at the back in the same way, oops, under the empire line, and it kind of creates this baggy skirt effect, which in theory it probably looks quite nice within reason, but it does kind of make it look like I'm trying to hide a pregnancy belly, which I don't appreciate, especially at my age, because everybody always asks me when I'm having a baby, which is very rude, and you shouldn't do that, by the way. Yeah, so I don't really, that's not helped by wearing something that looks like I'm trying to hide something. I don't find that quite so flattering. The other thing is, in a kind of Regency period dress, I think actually all the ruffling was at the back, and actually it would be quite flat on the front. So I'd probably do those things differently were I to do it again. The other thing is I haven't put, there's like a white trim in the pattern that goes around all the edges and stops them curling, because it's quite curly. Oops, on the bottom there. It's quite, curls up quite quickly. So I'd need to finish that anyway. But the reason I haven't anyway put the sleeves on is because the pattern has 3/4 length sleeves, which I don't tend to like, but I think they'd look weird and skinny if I did them full length, and I can't decide if I want to do full length sleeves with slightly belled bottoms, which definitely won't be Regency period, or whether I'd like capped sleeves, also not Regency period inspiration, so accidentally going full off that train. So this one's been on the it'll do for now pile for a while, and as I say, I can still wear it, it just doesn't quite have the finishing touches because I'm so indecisive about what I want to do. Something that is worth noting though is that previously I wasn't really sure, when I made this in the first place, I wasn't really sure probably how to adapt the pattern well, whereas now I think I'd be pretty confident. So there is that silver lining. It won't stop the weird ruffling thing at the front. I'm doing some kind of alien. Yeah. Speaking of pregnancy. Anyway, so there is the Jane Austen top by Drops Design. Then we've got something that I've been making quite a lot of recently, which is around here somewhere. Is it this one? I think so. Yeah. Okay, and in here I've got more LotusFlowerBeanies. So I've touched on them already in my introduction. In fact, I think I more than touched on them. But the LotusFlowerBeanie by BKnits Handmade is really, really lovely to knit, and it's really quick as well. Now, what I did was I saw that Naturgarn by Vikings of Norway, which is 100% wool, was on sale. And in that yarn, which is kind of like a roving yarn, you know, it's not plied. They have quite a lot of neutrals and kind of matching variegated. Not matching, but complementary. So for example, this is an example of a neutral in that yarn, and this is an example of a variegated. So they were on sale, and a bit of a steal. So I ordered enough to make about 5 hats, and then kept having to buy more because people wanted them in similar colours to the ones I'd already made. So I've still got 2 hats worth from the original lot I bought, and this one in particular, I made one already in these colours and gave it to my niece, and then my sister-in-law wanted a matching one. So I'm more than happy to make another, and I'm making the same one in a slightly bigger size so they can match. I finished these off with Trimit's faux fur pom-poms. They've got 11cm ones, which are quite big and they look great on these hats. But you can get all the same colours in a smaller pom-pom if you're not brave enough to rock a 11cm diameter pom-pom. I'm certainly not. And I've got now two more sets of colours. These come in 50-gram balls. These ones. 50-gram balls. And it takes 2 neutrals and 1 variegated to make a hat. Not the whole of the variegated ball, not even half actually. So if I have it's about 1.5 of these balls, the neutrals. So if I actually get 3 neutrals and 1 variegated, in theory I can make 2 hats out of that, which is quite useful. Has come in quite useful for some of the duplicate ones I've made, because I've only needed to maybe order 1 more neutral. So yeah, if you're going to be making lots of these and you're interested in using Nachagon, and if you want to make matching ones as well, then you want 3 of the neutrals, 1 of the variegated. But if you're just making a one-off hat, then it's 2 of the neutrals, 1 of the variegated. Yeah, so that's those. Feel like I'm going to be knitting those forever, because it's kind of like fighting a hydra. Every time you finish one hat, 2 more requests come in. Yeah, so they're also really satisfying because they're so quick as well. So it's almost like a nice palette cleanser between other things. If you're quite frustrated with another project, you can just jump back on this, which I very much have been doing. This is in my lovely kind of, it's another Hessian-ish feeling, canvassy Hessian style bag. Round, lovely, kind of stiff bag. And this was also a gift bag. So it was full of Holland and Barrett lotions and potions. And again, definitely wasn't more excited by the bag. But I've also had quite a lot of people ask me, oh, where did you get that bag? It was a gift bag, so you can't have one. It is actually a pity, I would buy so many. So, or maybe not a pity for my bank account. I quite like it. It did encourage me to consider how to make these, because this fabric, the patterning on it as well, is absolutely my cup of tea. That kind of green on a, I suppose it's beige, isn't it? Really love that pattern and this kind of fabric, and it's made really well actually. So yeah, considering it's just a gift bag, I would be very tempted to try making a couple, and if I manage to do it successfully, I can gift a couple to the said friends that were asking about it as well, which would be nice. But that's probably a little way down the line because of all these work in progresses that I already have. Right, so gotta be careful here not to get mixed up. So let's move the things I've done over here. And I'm going to touch on my Christmas jumper again. So I did already mention this as well in my introduction video. I love this jumper, and it's the right kind of Christmassy jumper for me. It's a nice bright colour, which I don't normally wear, but I do at Christmas. A nice bright colour. I absolutely love the cute little Christmas puddings and the random assortment of red buttons that I found. A nice touch is that about 6 of these red buttons actually came off Christmas gift tags. So somebody gave me and my partner some gifts in the family, and they all had these little red buttons on, and I stole those. Anyway, so I made this quite long in the body, deliberately, and I made it quite long on the sleeves, deliberately, because I like my sleeves to be here, you know, like really snugly, especially a Christmas jumper. But when I joined for the yoke, it's bottom up, so bottoms up. You get to the point here and you join it all in the round. It's all worked in the round, but these 3 tubes, if you like, tube for the arm and tube for the body, you attach and you start decreasing and you do the yoke and it's all hunky-dory, and then you get to the top and you realise that the yoke has pulled your sleeves so that they're more like this. And that's not what we wanted. So my plan is that I'm going to cut from before the white starts, because that is something like 5 stitches between the cuff and the white, so that's got to stay because it's consistent with everywhere else. I'm going to cut here, and I'm going to add probably at least another 2 inches on there. So that will be fun, a fun adventure for all involved, so me then. And also the pattern had kind of a plique holly leaves. Mind went blank. A plique holly leaves that you had to knit and then sew on. And I thought initially that was a nice detail, but I made them according to the pattern and stitched them on, and they didn't look quite right to me because they weren't pointy enough. So then I made some slightly pointier ones, and they still didn't look very good. So in the end, I ended up duplicate stitching over the top of the original knitted bit, because I didn't really want to go back for the sake of just you know, doing it all as one piece. Duplicate stitch is actually quite useful in that sense, because if you do make a mistake in your colour work, I don't know if you've done colour work or if you've made a mistake before in your colour work. I'm sure you've made a mistake before, unless you're a robot, in which case, how did you tick the box? No, if you duplicate stitch over the top, and all it is understanding the shape of a stitch so that you can pass your needle in the correct sort of pattern to make the same stitches, and you're just doing it over the top of an existing stitch. So underneath a stitch here, a green stitch, you will find that there are actually red stitches underneath. Oops, there. Excuse my nails. Yeah, red stitches are underneath, but you can't tell at all from the actual jumper. So duplicate stitch is definitely a good technique to learn if you do colour work and you're not sure how to do that. There are lots of really useful tutorials on how to do that already. Otherwise I'd say, oh, I'll do a video on it, but it's really very straightforward and there's some really good tutorials already. So, just found a little end that's poking out here as well. Better tidy that up. There's one on the armpit as well. Look at that. He's huge. Anyway, so this needs a bit of tidying up, but I finished it right in time for Christmas 2023, and then of course wore it, moved on. And then when I got it out for Christmas 2024, I thought, oh, I should have done these sleeves, and I've got an armpit end. Tune in for lovely stories by Chloe. Okay, so that's the Christmas jumper. It's knitted in Paintbox wool mix in Aran weight. Some of this, yeah, these details here I just used scrap yarn. I didn't buy in yarn specially. But it's wool mix Aran by Paintbox. And the Paintbox yarns, I do think they're quite good because they are really affordable in a lot of different colours. I normally would go for Paintbox if I was making like a children's toy. But for the Christmas jumper, I didn't want to do anything in really nice yarn. You know, I should say expensive yarn, because it's perfectly nice, it's really soft. I didn't want to do anything in really nice yarn because it's only going to come out once a year, so I didn't want to spend a lot of money on something I'm just not going to wear enough, especially if I mess up and do the sleeves too short and never fix it. So the Christmas jumper is fine as it is. Even if I never go back to it, I'm actually okay about that one because, again, it comes out so rarely. The other thing is I definitely knitted it slightly too tight. I was actually going for a kind of baggy fit, and it definitely isn't that. But it's also quite a close, it's not got the kind of drape I was hoping for. So I think I should have probably gone up even a whole needle size potentially for the fit I wanted. Luckily it still does fit. One other thing is that I made what I think was a pretty silly mistake, and can also be fixed, thankfully. But you'll see right in the middle here, that where I have joined a ball of yarn, I've done it right along the front of my jumper, and it's left like a constant forever crease. So I can fix it, but retrospectively, I think what I learned from this project is if you're changing ball, do it at the side where no one will see. So that's the Christmas jumper, which I think I've already said, but I carried on talking, as is my way. So, Christmas jumper needs a bit more work. That Christmas jumper, if I didn't already say, was a free Ravelry download, and it's by Fiona Bennett, and you can actually do Christmas puddings, snowmen, or Rudolph, so a bit of variety as well. Oh, one more thing about the Christmas jumper. I think also if I was going to redo it, which I'm not going to, but I would also probably just add a few short rows for shaping so that the front, the neckline comes down a little bit, like this, so that it kind of, so it sits a bit more forward, because otherwise it's a little bit, it doesn't choke me, but I can feel that it's there, you know. So yeah, those are all the things I learned on this Christmas jumper. Wowee. Next up, let's cover the Alaska hat. So, next up, in this very beautiful, cute little bag, by Clara Rose Crafts, who unfortunately has left Etsy, but previously did these wonderful bags. She had these themes, and I absolutely loved this bag for so long. And it's got the kind of mushrooms and fairies. It was the mushrooms that got me. I love a good mushroom. And obviously the dark green. I'm a bit of a sucker for that too. I actually got this bag for Christmas from my mum. I put it on a wish list. Thankfully, I got it before Clara Rose shut up shop. It's quite hard to say. So, what's in it? Let's have a look, shall we? I've already kind of given you a clue. This is the Alaska hat, and the Alaska hat is by Camille Descoteaux. And I don't know if I've said that correctly. Now, there's a lot to say actually about this hat, because I am doing it differently. So this is how far I've got with it. It's in a yarn called The Dark Side by the Grey Sheep Co. And then the greeny colour, so that was the dark colour on the brim there. The greeny speckled colour there is actually dyed by my friend Annie for me on request. So I asked her would she be willing to dye me some yarn that kind of resembled the Northern Lights sky, which she did, and it's very beautiful. In fact, I'll put a picture of what the yarn looked like here as well. And what she'd done is she got a sock blank, which is where you buy natural yarn, undyed, that's been already knitted into a tube, just using like a sock. It's like a sock knitting machine, but it's hand wound. Anyway, doesn't matter. Not really the point. So you get a tube of knitting, basically, in an undyed yarn. And because it's already knitted like this, where all the kind of in stockinette, basically, as all the pieces of yarn lay over one another, when you dye it, not all of it gets the dye. So you get this kind of mottled effect, which looks more like this. And so Annie made me this yarn. Thank you, Annie. And it also went into this lovely pinky colour here, which is very nice. What I was finding though is that because the middle, so if we faded from, I say we, I was not involved, the yarn faded from green through a kind of darkish blue to the pink, and it looked beautiful. However, the middle colour, that blue, didn't come out against the black at all because it was just too, it was hidden. So I tried to cut straight to the pink, but now the pink and the green, it's too harsh a line, there's no fade. So I'm going to rip it back to before I joined the pink, which doesn't look like it was very far ago. But I'm doing this in double knitting, which is where you actually kind of knit two fabrics at the same time, and the colour work alternates. So if you were to flip it inside out, you'd have the green colour where the black is and the black colour where the green is, and then yeah, it's kind of a reversible. I wouldn't wear it reversed, but I wanted to practice double knitting, and I've done this to myself, basically is what I'm saying. So the pattern doesn't do this. The other thing is that I did a folded brim, which is where you would essentially knit this ribbed brim, and if you imagine it's kind of this long and you're going to fold it over, normally, as in when you wear the hat you fold it up. I didn't want that, but I did want a double brim. So I knitted it the full length, folded it in half, folded it in half, and I picked up all of the stitches for the two layers for the double knitting, which hopefully makes sense, but if not, I can go into more detail on request. So because I'm doing the double knitting, I'm going to have to rip back, but it's going to take me a little while. And this whole project, because it's in double knitting, is not the kind of knitting you can do watching something. You really have to give it your full attention. The other problem with it is you'll see, it's not a big problem actually, because I don't mind a baggy beanie, but I'm using 3.5 needles. These are now Knit Pro Zings, which are the metal equivalent of the circular set, or one of the metal equivalents I should say. But now you'll see that the brim is quite small and the hat goes really quite wide. Now if I had a ponytail or something, or a bun, that would still be quite good because it means it would go over my bun, and you see the brim stretches out, so it's baggy but it's not really baggy. But as a result it made me think, I'm already on the 3.5 needles, which is the smallest in my Zing set, but I do have some sock needles that are about 2.75 I think. So I could also rip back all the way to the brim, because contrary to how it sounds, I have actually been enjoying this project, even though it's in the naughty corner for now. So I could go all the way back to the brim and knit up from the brim in a sock needle, to get it to just sort of shrink a little bit. Because I did find this, I don't know why I didn't think of it before, but I did a couple of double knitting squares for a blanket. Our craft group, we've made a couple of blankets together, so we make a square or a couple of squares to a certain size, say 6 by 6 inches, and then one of us will stitch them all together afterwards and send them off to whoever the recipient is. And that project, when it comes around, is a really good opportunity to use your square or your squares to do something new and challenging if you have the time. So I used that project to learn double knitting, and I was quite enthused and wanted to do some more. But the thing is, I learned from that project that the double knitting came out bigger than expected, so I thought it would be the same as stockinette for some reason, and I measured it up thinking it would be 6 inches by 6 inches, and it was not, so I had to go back and do it again. But for some reason it didn't occur to me when I started this project that I should go down quite a lot. Anyway, So the dark side yarn is actually a DK, but it comes out a lot more like a 4-ply. It's super thin. And then the sock blank was in 4-ply. So if I just show you that, these are, whoops, the two coloured ones are the 4-ply, the 4-ply, and the dark side is the DK, and you can quite clearly see they're about the same size. There is a method you can do where you wrap your yarn around a particular measure. Well, it's an inch actually. Wraps per inch will tell you what weight the yarn actually is. So I think the dark side DK comes out more of a 4-ply personally. So yeah, I'm still thinking about this. I'm definitely going to rip back the pink. The other thing is that the dark side yarn is tinged with a kind of greeny blue, and then my green is obviously mottled. So I'm not quite sure, and it may when I've finished be a bit more evident, but I'm not sure if my tree silhouettes are actually going to come out that well. And I think that's fine anyway. I don't mind if it is too subtle. I'm going to do it anyway. So yeah, that's the Alaska hat that I'm working on. And that's hanging out in my lovely Clara Rose craft bag, which is definitely my favourite looking craft bag that I have. Now then, next up is going to be this painful project. When I first moved into this place, this house, the house already had brand new grey carpets everywhere, and it's good quality carpet, but we also had grey sofas, grey chairs, and the walls actually are a light coloured grey as well, so it's just very grey. So I thought that I would use these colours, the turquoisey colour, it's kind of like a duck egg actually, isn't it, and this lemon. And I was going to make, I bought some cushions and some plant pots and things all in those colours to try and brighten the room up a bit, and I decided I was going to make this absolutely ginormous blanket to put on the sofa. And me and my partner will often, you know, if we're sitting watching a film, we'll get under a blanket and go all cosy. It's really because he refuses to put the heating on, but it is also nice to have a blanket. So we have got a blanket in the meantime, but I started this blanket, and it was the Chevron blanket. So it's I've already shown the baby blanket version of the Chevron blanket, but Espace Tricot also do just a Chevron colour block blanket, which is much bigger, but not as big as I've made it, because as usual I've gone turbo. And I basically made this one that is big enough to fit on a double bed. So it starts in grey, and then it goes yellow, and then I stopped because I realised that whilst these colours are nice, they're not really my cup of tea. So I just stopped and I changed the colour scheme, and the rest is history. But I'm still going to finish this blanket, but it's no longer in the colour of the living room. In fact, the living room is now autumnals and it's dark and dreary, how I like. So I'm just embracing the moodiness. This blanket, however, I'm going to finish it, and then I'm either going to give it away, because I really do think the colours are very nice, they're just not to my taste, or I'm going to maybe save it for, I don't know, a future guest room. guest room. We're dreaming quite big. Let's be real, it's just another craft room, it's not a guest room. But the blanket might end up in there. So either way, I'm definitely going to fix it. And if you believe me, then you should probably have watched back over the previous content about the other works in progress I need to finish. Let's be real. No, I do want to finish it, especially because it is half done, and I was enjoying it. It's quite a nice knit. There's no reason not to do it except that I've just moved on to other projects that I'm more passionate about, more excited about. But it would be relatively quick to finish this because it is. It's easy to knit whilst watching a film or, you know, listening to podcasts myself. So yeah, I'll come back to it, but it pains me because it's now been nearly 5 years that we've been in the house, and I think this might have been started in that first year. So, this is, technically I started some 2 at a time socks in here, this little bag, which was a little gift bag that one of my friends made with lots of cute little crafty gifts in. But yeah, I've got this yarn. I like the colours. It's Adriafil yarn in 4-ply. And yeah, I keep wanting to kind of make socks, and I also want a small travel project that can just, you know, it can go with you to work, or, you know, if you're, I don't know, at the doctor's or something, you know, you've got to wait somewhere. It's quite good to have a little project, and socks seem like the perfect thing. I just wish I liked knitting them more. I've got a bag here. It was a gift bag from Amazon, which I don't know if they do all the time, but they did this one Christmas, and someone sent me a gift in gift wrap, and it comes in this kind of the kind of organza bags, I suppose. So it's got like an organza top to it. Feels a bit, don't know about that. But this is actually just a pouch that I always keep Christmassy colours in, and when it gets closer to Christmas, or sometimes in this downtime between Christmas and New Year, I'll just knit some little Christmas tree ornaments, and then I give them to my mum or my partner's family. So in here is just a white with sort of glittery specks in, not glitter, kind of, what's it called? You know, like the metal tinsely stuff. A gold thread, a red version of that kind of, see those shiny bits? That's what the white's like as well. And then a generic green. These are all kind of scraps. In fact, I think this and the white one were from like a pound shop or something, and were bought deliberately to make Christmas ornaments with, but quite a long time ago, and they're lasting forever because obviously I don't need quite as many of that. But also in this bag are these cute little 4mm needles that are gold. And they're just cheap ones from a knit your own toy set, you know. So they're quite small, so I keep them in the pouch with the yarn, and then these are always my Christmas knitting needles. And because they're gold, they kind of feel Christmassy. I feel like, ooh, I'm doing my Christmas knits. So, ooh. So I've also got in here this little book, and it's 20 to Make Mini Christmas Knits by Sue Stratford. Now I have made from here a couple of things, but we'll see here a selection of some of the things in the book. Oops. And for a book of only 20 items, I would say it's got some pretty good items in it. Sometimes I find when you've got a book or a magazine, there's only kind of 3 things or something, if you're lucky, that you actually want to make, or that you think you'd have time to make. So I quite like the twinkly star. And look, I've made quite a few of these gingerbread hearts, which look cute. I always put a button on the front of mine though. more like this one, but I do them always in this colour. And yeah, there's some nice things in here. This one is the one I've made the most because I just think it's really cute. It's a stocking. Don't know if you can see that very well. There we go. And they've got a couple of options there. I tend to do mine red with a white cuff, but then the picot edging here, which is in gold. I have done in gold before, but I tend to do mine in green because I think it looks a little bit more traditional. Or maybe a bit more muted. I'm even boring at Christmas, just like my muted colours. No, I wear a red jumper, I'll have you know. So I also really want to make this fat little Rudolph. He's so lovely. I think everything looks better when it's round. Everything looks better when it's round. And finally I've also made this guy. Oops, the snowman. I think he is fab. And actually I'd say he's got the most pieces probably. Maybe also the Rudolph. But I would love to just make a bunch of those for my tree. Maybe for my mum's tree as well. Funnily enough, she did a blue and white theme on her Christmas tree this year. And the snowman I gifted her a couple of years ago was blue and white. So he made the cut. He made the cut, people. So that was pretty nice. It's Christmas puddings in here. They look quite cute. I'll show you real quick. I don't want to I don't want to just sit here showing you a book. You can read by yourself. Yeah, there's a bunch of really cute things in there. Oh, and finally there's some Nordic bunting, which is pretty cool. I don't think I would have the patience to knit enough Nordic bunting for what I would want. You know, if I was going to have Nordic bunting, I'd want it everywhere, but I wouldn't want to have to knit all that myself. Knitting is my hobby, but I don't want to have to do any of it, you know. Yeah, so there is that. And then we've also got down here a bag which has a project I can't actually show you in it because it's top secret. But I just want to talk quickly about the bag itself because we went to the Lake District, I think. Is it the Lake District? No, actually it might have been Swanage. Very different location. We went to, yeah, sort of Swanage area, and there was a craft fair on in one of the local villages, and obviously you've got to go and have a look at a craft fair. And there was this lady with all these sewn items, loads of bags, draft excluders, purses, just a bunch of stuff, and she had made it all herself, and she was charging a criminally low price for all of her work. Like she was giving it away, you know, it was practically the cost of the materials. So I bought a couple of bags. I told her you should be charging more. I bought a couple of her bags, and this one's kind of like a weird, slightly glittery looking blue colour. It's not glitter, otherwise I wouldn't buy it because I do not like glitter one bit. I think it's the devil's work. But on the inside, this was supposed to be the lining. There's this really nice kind of slightly yellowy parchment coloured papery notes kind of fabric, but it looks so neat on the edge as well that I've just turned it inside out and I use it as a bag that way around because I think it looks nice. So that is a project I can't show you. Actually, I've realised that there's not as much here as I thought because in the run-up or the second half of this year I got a bit of a wiggle on and got a load of the work in progresses done so that I could tick off my bingo square for 2024, which now my slipper socks are trying to steal from me the victory that I would have had. But yeah, so it did actually work. It encouraged me to finish a lot more works in progress. So yeah, might do that again for 2025. If I put together another bingo square, I will share with you what I've selected for myself, and we can worry about it together when it comes to the end of 2025. Now then, this bag has just some orange, white and yellow yarn. It's paint box again. This time it's simply DK, which is just an acrylic yarn. It's really, really cheap, and if I didn't mention before when we were talking about paint box, it's really soft. It doesn't feel like acrylic, it's really lovely. But anyway, I had this yarn from a box of scraps from someone else. Not the white, actually, I had the white already. The yellow, oh actually, sorry, the orange is left over from the neon chevron baby blanket I made. So that one I did buy. The white I already had, and the yellow was somebody else's that they had in their stash and I ended up with for some reason. So I've been making Sunburst Granny Squares with sort of sunflower-esque colours, basically. And the reason I'm making these is I once made a blanket very early on again. I just learned how to make a crochet Sunburst Granny Square and made a baby blanket for an old friend of mine. And my original intention was actually to do the whole blanket as, you know, a full granny square blanket like this. But part way through I had an idea and I kind of just made it up as I went along. Gifted it, didn't really take a good photo, regrettably. I then had a look for the pattern online because I assumed it must exist because it was actually quite simple, and it does use Sunburst Granny Squares, but I haven't found it anywhere. So then I thought what I might do, because it's quite a good project, especially for a semi-beginner, my intention is to make that blanket again and write down the pattern, make it available, and probably do a few video tutorials while I have the opportunity as well. So I'm making a stack of these. I think I need the 18, 25, I think. So I need 25 of these to move on to the next step. So when I've got only a couple of these left to make, I'll start recording them, and then I'll record how the whole thing is put together. It's crochet as you go. No, sorry, crochet as you go. Everything's crochet as you go. I meant join as you go when you come to put the squares together, which is really nice. It's a really nice way of saving yourself sewing everything up at the end, which I'm not a fan of. If anyone out there loves weaving in ends and sewing things together, please get in touch because I have need of your services. Right, so that's what I'm making here. I'm remaking a blanket that I've already made for the sake of building a pattern, and then once I've done it, I probably won't keep this one because, again, the sunflower colours aren't really my colour. That's that, and that does bring me, I think, to the end of my works in progress. Well, I did actually have one more work in progress technically, and calling it one is a bit of a fib because I've got this bag of unfinished socks that I don't want to do. I want to have the sock, but I don't want to do the sock. This is my hobby that I do for fun. So at the bottom here is a simple sock that's in an another Adriaphil yarn, similar to the other one I showed you, just a different colourway. So there's an unfinished simple sock there, and just one of them. There's some Women's Institute Unique Yorkshire here in a dark blue, which the heels and toes will be in this kind of cool goldy colour, bronzy gold, which was another one that Annie dyed. And then there are some frogged socks here in kind of a purple, you can't really see, but a purple and a turquoise, and they are also the Women's Institute Yorkshire the top one here, which is a lovely colour, is actually just a yarn from New Zealand. They're like sweets. So that's going to become a pair of socks, but I obviously haven't even started that one. And there's a couple in there as well, just some mini skeins that will be good for heels and toes. So yeah. Oh, and if you've seen this, this is actually a hard boob protector from a sports bra that I borrowed from a friend and use as a darning mushroom instead of getting a darning mushroom. So sometimes I use the boob protector to darn socks with, and it works quite well. So thank you, Yvonne, for your boob protectors. Now then, that really is everything. So I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you for joining, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day crafting. I will put my Ravelry and Instagram usernames here as well, so that you can find me if you want to follow me there.